welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're going somewhere pretty interesting, a captivating legend from West Africa.
It's one of those stories that really gets under your skin, you know?
Yeah, and it's especially intriguing because we're exploring it through these excerpts from a piece called Texte Calais.
Which literally means pasted text in French.
Pasted text. Interesting. So we're basically working with like fragments of stories and accounts, right? Kind of like piecing together a puzzle.
Exactly. And the puzzle is this legend centered around this beautiful woman, a flamboyant tree with these bright red flowers.
And oh yeah, travelers who just vanish without a trace.
Classic spooky setup, right? But like with a lot of legends, this one starts with a really human tragedy. Hawa. Our Texte Calais introduces us to her. A young woman forced into a life she never wanted, orphaned really young. She had to survive, she had to resort to selling her body.
It's so vividly described in the text, too. You really feel her desperation, her yearning for something more.
And that's when Kofi enters the picture. He's this traveling merchant, promises her escape, a new life, far away from everything.
The classic bad guy.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And he takes everything she has and abandons her. It's really heartbreaking.
And it's not even just a story, right? I mean, this kind of exploitation.
Oh, absolutely. It was so common then, and tragically still is for a lot of women in similar situations.
It's awful. And to make things even worse, the townspeople accuse Owe of witchcraft.
A classic trope in folklore, but it has a much deeper meaning here, don't you?
For sure. What's the significance then?
Well, think about it. Accusing someone of witchcraft, especially back then, it was a way to target certain people.
Women?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Women who were seen as defiant or who challenged the norms. It was a way to control them, silence them.
So, Owe trying to change her life.
She probably defied all those expectations placed on women in her society. And the tragic result,
Wasn't lynched.
under the same flamboyant tree where she met Kofi, it's like the symbol,
Yeah, it's heavy. So Owa's story already has so much packed into it. But then the legend gets even more interesting.
the supernatural twist.
Years after her death, people start disappearing near that same tree. It's like something's unsettled.
Like something's not right. And with these disappearances come the whispers.
Of the mysterious woman.
Stunningly beautiful, they say, dressed in red, beckoning travelers along the road.
Owa's spirit transformed.
Into something else, something more.
Something more menacing, for sure. This is where the phantom prostitute comes in, right?
Precisely. And she's not just a ghost, she's a warning.
Because the travelers, lured by this woman,
They end up dead.
with strange burn marks on their bodies, like some kind of dark magic.
Adds a whole other layer of fear to the legend. And this image of a beautiful woman who's also dangerous, it's not unique to West Africa,
It's like a universal thing.
Think about the sirens in Greek mythology, luring sailors to their deaths with their voices.
Right. It's tapping into that primal fear of the unknown, the allure of beauty, and the danger hidden behind it.
Exactly. And what makes the phantom prostitute so interesting is that she's not just a straightforward villain.
There's this moral ambiguity surrounding her. Is she seeking revenge for what happened to Owa?
Or is she a lost soul trapped by her past, seeking some kind of peace?
The legend leaves it open to interpretation.
And that's what makes it so compelling.
It makes you think.
Forces you to confront the complexities of good and evil, justice and revenge.
Right. It's not just a ghost story. It's a reflection of much deeper issues.
And we're just scratching the surface.
It really makes you think about how these legends reflect these anxieties about justice and exploitation.
Especially for women like Owa, and the Texte Calais gives us a really interesting look at how that plays out. There's this one account about a young taxi driver, Tamba.
Tamba.
Yeah, he's completely skeptical at first. Doesn't believe in any of this phantom prostitute stuff, thinks it's all a bunch of hooey, until he encounters her himself. It's like the legend is proving its own point,
It's true. Even if you don't believe in ghosts, wouldn't you be at least a little freaked out if you saw her?
Oh, absolutely. So picture this, Tamba's driving his taxi late one night along that same desolate road.
The one by the flamboyant tree.
The very one. And he sees this woman standing under the tree.
Dressed in red.
Stunningly beautiful, he says. The red blossoms of the tree are practically glowing in the moonlight.
I bet he was curious. Even if just a little.
Well, yeah, he stops, and the woman approaches his car, asks for a ride to the next town.
And he agrees.
He's captivated. Who wouldn't be? But as they drive, this bone-chilling cold fills the car.
Even though it's a warm night.
Yeah, it's like this supernatural chill, And the woman's demeanor starts to change. Her smile becomes menacing. Her eyes are glowing in the darkness.
This is terrifying.
And then she asks Tamba in this chilling voice, "Why do you mock tormented souls?"
Whoa. That sends shivers down my spine.
No.
It's like she's aware of her own suffering and the disrespect even in death.
Right, she's not just some random spirit, she's holding him accountable.
So what does Tamba do?
He's terrified, begs for his life. He even confesses his skepticism, any wrongs he's committed. It's like he's trying to appease her.
Like he's being judged.
Exactly, and then just like that, she vanishes. Just a gust of cold wind left behind.
He survives, though.
Barely. He's completely shaken. Leaves town the next day, forever changed by the encounter.
So his story spreads, and the legend becomes even more powerful.
It's a cautionary tale wrapped in a ghost story, right?
It makes you think twice about dismissing these kinds of things. And what's interesting is that the text of Kale, it doesn't present the phantom prostitute as purely vengeful.
Right. Some accounts suggest she might also be protecting travelers.
Protecting them.
Yeah, like warning them away from danger or guiding them towards safety, especially from those who would exploit them, like Coffee exploited away.
So she's a protector, but a terrifying one, I guess you could say. It makes you wonder, is fear really an effective way to ensure justice?
That's the question, isn't it? Does it actually deter people from doing bad things? Or does it just breed resentment and more injustice?
It's a tough one. And in this legend, it seems like the fear surrounding the phantom prostitute, it serves multiple purposes.
Right. It reinforces belief in her power, discourages skepticism, and maybe even prompts some introspection. Makes people think about their own actions.
It's a complex message, for sure.
Which is what makes this legend so fascinating. It's not just about ghosts and vengeance. It's about how societies deal with these big issues of justice, morality, protecting the vulnerable.
We've been talking about this legend of the phantom prostitute, and it's got me thinking, why do these stories stick with us?
It's the question, isn't it? Why do we tell these stories? Especially the ones about ghosts and the supernatural.
The phantom prostitute, she's more than just a ghost, though, right?
Right, she's a symbol.
Of what?
Of all those fears and anxieties that we all share. I mean, she represents that force that steps in when the normal ways of justice don't work.
Especially for those who are vulnerable.
Yeah, especially for women who've been marginalized or silenced. She becomes this figure of retribution, making things right.
Giving people hope, in a way, even if it's a pretty dark kind of hope.
It's like a manifestation of that collective rage, that yearning for a world where evil deeds don't go unpunished.
Yeah, that need for balance.
Yeah.
It's universal, right?
Oh, absolutely. It's why we have these stories about vengeful spirits or gods in cultures all over the world and throughout history.
They give us a way to process those feelings of anger and powerlessness.
Exactly, a kind of catharsis. But the legend doesn't just paint her as vengeful, right?
That's what I find so interesting. There's that ambiguity about her motives. Like, is she protecting these travelers too?
Some accounts say she is warning them of danger, guiding them to safety.
Especially from those who would exploit them.
Just like what happened to Awad. It's what makes this legend so thought-provoking.
You don't really get a straight answer, do you?
And maybe that's the point. The text Kale leaves it open to interpretation.
Which forces us to question our own ideas about good and evil, justice and redemption.
It's like a mirror reflecting our own beliefs and anxieties.
It makes you think about how we respond to injustice. Do we want revenge? Do we offer forgiveness? Or is there a different way?
Big questions. So we come to the end of our deep dive into this legend, and
I'm kind of in awe of how powerful these stories can be.
the phantom prostitute isn't just a ghost story. She represents so much more than that. She's this touchstone connecting us to these anxieties that have been around for centuries.
And a reminder that the stories we tell, they reveal a lot about us and the world around us.
So as you go about your day, maybe you'll think about this legend and what it means to treat each other with kindness and respect.
To think about the consequences of what we do.
And to stay curious about the mysteries out there. Who knows, maybe you'll even feel a chill down your spine on a dark, lonely road and remember the phantom prostitute.
And the power of stories to shape our beliefs and challenge our assumptions.
Because even in the darkest legends, there's always something deeper to discover.